I'd like to welcome you once again, Gareth. Thank you for joining us at the Global Medicine and Health Education Expo. And good evening once again, students. Thank you for joining us in this breakout room. Right? We're delighted to have Gareth Davey from Swansea University. The topic for the day is health and psychology, opportunities for postgraduate students. So I'm sure there's a interesting subject matter that Gareth is going to be covering, and I myself am looking forward to that. And just let me tell you a little bit about him, right? Gareth Davey is he's the Internationalisation Officer, working specifically with the College of Human and Health Sciences in Swansea University. And in the field of internationalization, Gareth actually has been working for over 10 years. And he's also worked extensively with students in India. You know, he's helped a lot of Indian students start their journey, at allied health sciences programs at Swansea. So in fact, we were just chatting a few minutes ago, and he was telling me about how there's a lot of interest in students from different parts of India, and he was covering some of the cities from where a lot of Indian students have been signing up for these programs. So over to you, Gareth. I wish you all the best for this breakout session, and please take it forward.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for a very kind introduction there. So as mentioned, my name is Gareth Davey, and what I'm going to be doing today is covering our health and medicine programs. So you can see my email address here, so feel free to take that down now, and you're always welcome to contact me directly if there's anything you'd like to ask after I've gone through this. So what I'm going to do is just cover just some information about Swansea and why you want to study in the UK, and then I'm going to talk specifically about two of our biggest master's courses for Indian students, which are MSc Healthcare Management and MSc Public Health and Health Promotion. And then I've put the banner of psychology because we've got three different subject areas of psychology. So I'll talk to you about those different psychology routes, a little bit of English language, scholarships and funding, and then I'll tell you about some upcoming virtual events that we've got going on before we go to a question and answer session. So first off, why study in the UK? So you probably know this, but the UK is one of the more popular destinations, and there's over 500,000 international students enrolling each year in the UK. And UK universities are among the best in the world. They perform really well in world rankings and have a reputation for world-class research. And I'll touch on that later about how that applies directly to Swansea. The qualifications that you get from UK universities are really quite widely recognised by employers and academics. And I'll talk to you a little bit about sort of the careers off the back of this with our students and the type of things they've gone on to do. By studying with us, you'll get to learn, develop your skills in knowledge and critical thinking, and maybe build some connections within the healthcare community. And if you're looking at potentially staying in the UK, this is a good way of you being able to develop those connections within this sort of health and medical community. Our courses are generally shorter, so you'll find, particularly at master's level, which is what I'm going to be covering today, they're usually 2 years in other countries, but in the year, these are all going to be 1 year MSc programs. So that means that it brings the cost down for you. So when you're looking at tuition fees, you might see a fee that looks cheaper in, say, the United States, but if that's for you, you've got to pay it twice because you're doing 2 years, and then you've also got to pay your cost of living for 2 years. That becomes a significantly more expensive course then. So I would say, when you're looking at your tuition fee costs, do bear in mind duration, because that really makes a big impact. And the UK has a really multicultural society and really rich, diverse communities, and Swansea in particular is really well known for that. So we're a really welcoming city, and if you do get to come to study with us, I hope you get the opportunity to see that. And finally, in the UK, it is possible to do part-time work while you're studying your course as well. So it's another way for you to, bolster what you're doing with work and with your academic life to be able to aid you in your further career prospects. So Swansea, so you'll notice this map is very much the same as the map that is sitting behind me. Swansea, if you don't know, is based in southwest Wales. So if you don't know about the United Kingdom, the way it's split up, the UK is made up of actually 4 countries. So it is Northern Ireland, Scotland, England, and Wales. And highlighted on the map there, you can see the country of Wales, and you can see Swansea. So we're 3 hours from London, an hour and a half from Bristol, and an hour from Cardiff. And Swansea is the second largest city in Wales, second only to Cardiff, which is our capital, and it has a population of over 250,000 people. Our university has 2 seafront campuses, and that's one of the things that you'll notice which is very striking about Swansea, is that it is right on the seafront. So we're very much a seaside city. You can walk to the beach from the campus, either of our campuses, in less than 2 minutes. And we're right on the edge of the Gower Peninsula, which is the UK's first area of outstanding natural beauty. So what that means is it's essentially like a giant national park. There's about 50 beaches on that peninsula. So that means if you're coming to do a 1-year master's with us, you can pretty much visit a new beach every week. So it's a really beautiful part of the world. So these are our 2 campuses. The top image is our traditional campus, which is our Singleton Park campus. And then the bottom image is our Bay campus. That's our new Bay campus that opened in 2016. So the Faculty of Health and Life Science is actually based on the top campus, which is our traditional campus. And the university goes back to 1920, so it's over 100 years old. Across the 2 campuses, there's about 20,000 students studying with us, and about 3,500 of those are international. We have over 3,000 staff, and we have staff and students from over 130 different countries. Swansea is one of the top 10 most affordable university towns. So again, when you're looking at that expenditure, when you're looking at how much it's going to cost, it's not just about tuition fees. It's about your accommodation. It's how much it's going to cost for you to eat, to do your washing, how much is public transport. And you need to take all of those different areas into account when you're looking at where you're going to live. And being placed in one of the top 10 more affordable university towns means your money goes a lot further in Swansea than it would in somewhere like London. And what is really important to know is that we are a campus university. So whilst it's a dual campus, we very much like our campuses to function as a community, which has everything that you need all in one place. And that ranges from your accommodation to supermarkets, banks, cafes and restaurants, sports facilities, your libraries, their teaching facilities, everything all in one place. And you can see that on this top image here. It's quite a big campus. And for our health and life science students, the top right, you'll see the brown building. That is actually Singleton Hospital. And that's a working hospital. It's right next door to the campus and to our health and medical schools, which we have strong links with. So if you're coming to do a health or medical course, you're quite uniquely placed by having those located very closely. So a little bit about the Faculty of Health and Life Sciences. So we're currently going through a transition. We were the College of Human and Health Sciences and the Medical School, and we're transitioning to merge to become a Faculty of Health and Life Sciences. And within that sort of merger, we're going to have 7,000 students, and it's going to bring together a lot of different areas from public and allied health, nursing, social care, social policy, psychology, medicine, pharmacy, and a lot more beyond that. So it's a really diverse range of areas. And what this means for people who are coming to do, say, a public health or a healthcare management course, is that you'll be taught by academics with a range of different backgrounds. They could be audiologists or midwives. They could be people with social policy backgrounds. It's really diverse. And that means that it's a wide-ranging skill set which can adapt to what you already have a history in and hopefully give you the opportunity to grow your knowledge and then be able to apply it in quite a specified way. And then because of the nature of the types of courses that we deliver, many of them are accredited by professional bodies, or departments are accredited, or they're attached to accredited bodies. So that's a strong benefit for you when it comes to looking for work after you've completed your degree with us. And we have wide-ranging, high-quality research. And I know that sounds like quite a vague terminology. It is quite specific, because one of the things we're very proud of is we're a UK top 30 university for research excellence. And on the right-hand side, the top right, you'll see what's called the REF. So that is the Research Excellence Framework. And what that means is our research in Swansea has been assessed to be world leading, and it has impact. And it means that the work that's carried out by psychologists and medics and all the people who work across our department, the research that they're doing isn't just carried out and put in a drawer and never looks at it. It's wide ranging. It's used in different institutions and different private companies around the world. And that is how you assess impact, is does it make an impact on people's lives? Probably the most recent piece of research you might have seen from Swansea is that we've produced a microchip which can be placed on the arm, which will give people the vaccine. So it means that you don't need someone to actually give you an injection in your arm. You could put this on your arm and it will be able to deliver the injection for you. And the impact of that is massive, because it could mean that people could literally have the vaccine posted to them and they could stick this on their arm and it will do it for them. And, you wouldn't need a queue to go and see someone to deliver it for you. And we're not at those stages yet. It's very much, a piece of research that we're going to be able to look at how it's working. But if that is what we can do, it's going to be a game changer in terms of how we actually deliver the vaccine for coronavirus. We've also got on here what's called the Tef Gold. So this sits quite nicely with the research and excellence framework, because this is the teaching and excellence framework. And gold, it means it's the highest level that you can get for research. And I think that's really important to know, that you're going to be taught by academics that have been assessed to be the highest quality, and many of them are engaged in this research field. So they're not just going to be, using old history books and old textbooks. They're going to be engaged within the academic community, and they're going to be on top of recent events and current affairs, and that helps you with your learning. I'm not going to read out all of these, but you can see public health, we're top 200 globally with both the Shanghai rankings, and for clinical and health within the Times Higher Education rankings. We're 16th in the UK for subjects allied to medicine, 3rd in the UK for medicine itself, 1st in the UK for complementary medicine. There's a lot of things that we can shout about in Swansea. The one other one I will highlight is the winner of University of the Year for the What Uni Awards. If you don't know what uni is, have a Google of it. It's like TripAdvisor for universities. And we have no on this. Our students go on and review everything from accommodation to library services to Wi-Fi. They can literally rate everything. That's pulled together like a TripAdvisor review for a hotel or a package or something. And what it means is Swansea came out as the best university in the UK based on student feedback. And our students have voluntarily submitted that feedback. So we're very proud of that, because whilst all these academic rankings are fantastic, what really matters is how our students perceive us. And it means that we must be doing something right if so many of them want to sing our praises in that way. So that's the kind of the broader stuff about the university, and I hope you have an understanding about Swansea. What I'm now going to do is go into the different subjects. Now, what I've done initially is just put this entry requirements slide up. You can see the postgraduate section. You don't need to worry about the undergraduate, so you can ignore the top part. This just gives you equivalencies on the type of entry requirements you're looking for if you're coming to study courses with us in Swansea. Now, we're going to start with MSc Healthcare Management. So if you don't know what MSc Healthcare Management is, this course is effectively a one-year master's degree for people who have got a healthcare background, and it could be anything really that they do within that. It could be, doctors, dentists, nurses, it could be hospital administrators, it could be someone working within a health-based function within a government organisation. There's a lot of ranges where healthcare management could be applied. And what the aim of this course is to look at global healthcare systems, so look at, say, the NHS in the UK, a more private healthcare system like the United States of America, look at something in the Middle East, look at something in Africa. It'll look at these different countries and how they manage their healthcare provision. And it'll look at it from a user's perspective, and also from you as perhaps someone delivering that service. So if you're looking at working in maybe the World Health Organization, or if you're looking at a big government position where you'll be working for the top ends of government, it could be local government, it could be in a hospital, it could be in a dentist practice, it could be as a local GP or doctor's practice. It doesn't really matter what your goal is. It'll take you to be able to critically assess how healthcare provision is managed for a range of different countries around the world, and for you to be able to go, this works and this doesn't work, all to the benefit of the end user, so the patient. So we have people, as I say, from a wide range of backgrounds. So we don't necessarily need that expertise, because we want you to bring your expertise. So if you're a doctor, bring that with you. If you've got a background in, infectious diseases, or if you've got a background in, cardiac arrest, it could be anything that you've got it in. We will just teach you to take that wider range of knowledge and apply it to how to manage healthcare, how to manage the provision of healthcare, and how to deliver that to the benefit for people where you live. So the way we do that, there's various aims of the program, but it's effectively taking managerial and leadership practices that you'd see in maybe an MBA or a master's degree, an MSc master's degree, and then underpinning that with the different sort of healthcare practices and the way that you would look at different healthcare systems. So bringing those two areas together, because you could go and do an MSc management degree, but that will very much focus on how you manage a sort of a private business and organization. The difference with healthcare management is it is about the end user experience. And by end user, I do mean, it could be looking at people with end of life care or people who've got chronic or long-term conditions. It isn't as cutthroat as what's the thing to make the most money for your company. Often it's about maximizing how you can effectively look after people, how you can care for people, and what's the best way to be able to treat people. So you do need to take elements of business practice, but there's also got to be a sort of a softer side of it as to the way you look after people when you're doing it as well. So that's the kind of the aims of the program. I'm not going to read all of these out because you can see them here, but that kind of hopefully contextualizes how we bring those two areas together to deliver a program that will be beneficial to you. In terms of the structure of the program, the way we do that is it's across 5 core modules looking at theory and practice of leadership and management in health and social care, looking at politics and policies, because whoever's in government will have an impact on how your healthcare provision is managed. If you're looking at it on a local scale even, if the government decides to cut the amount of funding that's going into healthcare provision, then you've got to reflect how you're going to adapt to a change in less money. So that's how the politics will affect then the policies that you put in place and how you manage that provision. Organising healthcare, and that very much ties into what I've just discussed, which is, sort of budgets and managing how you manage the provision. Could be you have to lose staff. How do you manage the same provision with less staff to deliver it? Social, cultural, and economic context of health. So that's looking at how different social constructs and different people of different backgrounds will change the way the health practice is delivered. And then evidence and research for healthcare management. So those are core. What that means is you have to do all of those. But then there's 4 optional modules, and you would pick, I believe it's 2 of these. So you could do quality improvement, the psychology of healthcare management, economic evaluation in healthcare, and then foundations in public health and primary care. And then the assessment for this is a 20,000 word piece of independent research. So that's a big piece where you would pick a big subject and pull in your existing knowledge, which is everything you've learned off all of these different modules, to write a big piece of work. And usually that dissertation is quite helpful when you're looking for careers going forwards. So the entry requirement for healthcare management is the equivalent of a UK 2-2, which I believe is about 60%. So you'll be looking at, obviously we look at equivalent qualifications. You don't necessarily need an undergraduate degree if you've got significant work experience. So if you had someone who's been maybe a hospital administrator for 10 years, there's a wealth of knowledge that you're bringing with you. And as long as you can show that, you're academically capable of undertaking a master's degree, that combined with your work experience could be used as an alternative to having that undergraduate degree to do the course. And then I've put the tuition fees on the bottom here, and I've put the approximately, that's in Indian rupees, that you can see there. So MSc in Public Health and Health Promotion. So this is probably, I would say, one of the more popular postgraduate degrees in the university for students coming from India, particularly in health backgrounds, because it bridges a lot of different things together. And as with the healthcare management, a wide range of backgrounds. I'd also bring other areas in there, because it isn't just, the sort of hospital administrators and the healthcare and all of that. There's other people that come in as well. So people who've worked in planning offices, architects have come to do this course. People who've worked in social housing, people who've done sort of social work or social care jobs, people who've worked in, care homes. It doesn't necessarily have to be hands-on with health, because public health fits into a whole range of different areas. Now, this course is mapped to the National Occupational Standards Public Health Career Framework. So what that means is by completing this course, you're able to hand this over to either the registered practitioner status or the UK Public Health Register and gone, I've done this master's degree in Swansea University, the course is mapped to this, and this combined with your background should allow you to register for either the registered practitioner or the UK Public Health Register. And which one of those you apply for will depend on your background. So usually registered practitioner will be people who have got, health or medical backgrounds, they're trained doctors, for instance, whereas the UK Public Health Register, it could be that you're an architect or someone who's worked in, local council planning or something like that. And the course has really strong links with around the world. So, it is an international looking course, and we do look at, how different public health policies are managed in different areas. But I think the big question which everyone asks is, why public health and health promotion? Why not MPH? Why isn't it a Masters in Public Health? And we've decided to do things a bit differently in Swansea. And I can't say it's better because obviously it depends what you want to do. But if you were to do an MPH, it would focus a lot on epidemiology. It focuses a lot on public health strategy and how you write a strategy. The outlook from our academics who deliver this course is basically we don't want it to just be a public health course, because you can write a public health policy and then it can be put in a drawer and no one will look at it. It's very much, it needs to be a combination of the two. It needs to be the public health side of things and then the health promotion, how you advertise it, how you get your message out. So for instance, if you want to get people to quit smoking, people will say smoking is bad for you. There's evidence that says smoking is bad for you. So you can write a policy going, well, smoking's really bad for everyone. But then how do you tell it's really bad for people? So it could be that you want to bring in policy. So it could be that you want to use nicotine replacement therapy and that you want doctor surgeries to give free nicotine patches to anyone who wants to quit smoking, to encourage people to quit. But how do you tell people about that? So you put advertising campaigns out in newspapers and magazines and on the radio and do sponsored posts online. That's the health promotion side of things. That's getting your message out there that smoking is bad, and you start putting out messaging saying, this is why it's bad for your health. This is how you can get ill. Here's some stories as to why you should quit smoking. And then also behind that, you have the messaging strategy to get that out there, to actually, promote it to the wider population. I can give you a slightly more specific example in this. So we had a student from Egypt, and she told us that basically refuse collection is quite poor in Cairo. So what people will do is put their rubbish out into the streets, and the rubbish will pile and pile and pile and pile and pile. And it will start to, the food will start to rot, and there's really bad smells, and it brings in rats and vermin, and they spread disease. And people get very sick from all of the rubbish piling up in the streets. And what they'll do then is every sort of couple of weeks, someone will come around to pick up all of the rubbish once it's got to quite a bad level and people are getting sick. And they'll take it just outside the city, and they'll have what's called a burn day, which is where they set fire to all of that refuse. But then anyone who lives near where they do the burn gets all of the fumes from all of that waste being burnt. They inhale that air and it makes them very sick. So clearly there's multiple public health issues going on there. And what she did is she wanted to look at how we manage refuse collection and recycling in the UK, and how she could write a strategy to be able to put it in place, a public health strategy to manage the waste in a way that would bring down costs. And then it would also mean that people don't overwhelm the healthcare system, because everyone's getting ill from the spread of disease and from those burn days. And then the health promotion side of that is once you put that strategy in place, you go right to everyone. This is what the new thing is. You need to recycle. Once a week, plastic and paper goes out every Monday. The following week, it's going to be glass bottles and other waste that goes out on the other Monday. And you build up a strategy off that. So that's a health promotion. And she's gone on to do, brilliant things. So it's a really interesting program. And because of it's mapped to that public health register that I discussed earlier, it's all core modules. There's no flexibility. You have to study all 8 of these modules. And they cover the foundations of health promotion. So they cover the public health evidence and epidemiology. So that's more like an MPH type module you'll be doing. Public health ethics, developing programs and evaluations, health protection, management and leadership for public health, and then foundations in research. And all of those, again, like with the healthcare management program, will tie together very nicely for you then to be able to do your dissertation, which, as with healthcare management, is a 20,000 word piece of independent research. In terms of fees and entry requirements, it's a higher requirement than the Masters in healthcare management, the MSc in healthcare management, so it's the equivalent of a 2-1. But again, we will look at people who do have a background in sort of public health related areas. So it could be someone who's maybe done sports science and education. Well, sports science would be public health and education would be health promotion. If you've got a background in those areas, that could be something which we could look at. So, get in touch with us if you feel you meet that criteria. And before I move on to psychology, I just wanted to do a student in focus area, because people always ask, what sort of jobs can you go and do after this? So this is a student who came over to us. So she's from, I believe it was Romania. So she wasn't a UK student. Whilst not an international student, she obviously wasn't from the UK. And she's gone on to work as a public health commissioner in London. So she's a really senior, significant position. And she's done that off the back of being able to do the public health and health promotion programme in Swansea. And you can see here she's answered questions about her favourite memories in Swansea and how she got there. But basically, she applied to do a graduate scheme in health and social care after completing the master's with us. And it was off the back of that graduate scheme that she was able to go on to become a public health commissioner. Obviously, that might not be a career ambition. You may want to return to your home country and do something else. But there's a lot of different things you can do with these courses. I think they give you the skills to be able to work in a wide range of areas for both healthcare management and public health. And it really is a case of, we can't guarantee you employment after the course, but we can give you all of the skills that you need to be able to move forwards with a career, and in the UK, if that's something that interests you. So, postgraduate psychology at Swansea. I suspect there probably isn't as many students here, so I won't spend quite as long talking about this, but I'll very sort of briefly just touch on it. So we have 3 MSc postgraduate taught masters programs in Swansea University. And our psychology department have really strong links with the British Psychological Society and with local health boards, including the NHS. Now, what I'd like to say about the British Psychological Society, or BPS as it's known, one of the big questions we get is are the master's courses in Swansea accredited by the BPS? And the answer to that is no, but there is a really good reason for that. In the UK, most undergraduate courses are accredited. So you get your BPS accreditation and membership after doing a 3-year undergraduate degree. What that means then is, from the sort of BPS perspective, they don't need to accredit all the different master's level courses in the UK, because they assume that you'd already have got your registration from your undergraduate degree. And if you want to become, say, a clinical psychologist in the UK, it wouldn't be a master's you do. You need to go on to do what's called a doctorate in clinical psychology. And there's various versions of those types, depending on whether you want to become a cognitive neuroscientist or a forensic psychologist or an occupational psychologist. You have to go for further study to be able to do it. And the master's degree is usually just a stepping stone to do a focused, applied academic year of study to develop your knowledge within that skilled area before you go on to do the equivalent of a DCLIN or the forensic psychology course, or whatever version you're doing. So they don't accredit at BPS the master's degree, but that doesn't mean that the course has less value, because our master's degree is taught by the same people who develop our undergraduate program, and that is accredited by the BPS. So essentially, if there was a mechanism in which we were able to get the courses accredited, we would utilize it, but there isn't, so it isn't accredited. But I just want to make it clear, don't be put off by that. That doesn't mean they're a bad course, and that's not just for Swansea, that's for most master's degrees in the UK. And then just to say, for psychology, if you're looking to do a psychology degree in the UK, I would say have a look at the research that they're doing, because the research gives you a good indication of the type of academics that work there, and are they working on things that might be of interest to you. Now, our psychology department did really well in the REF, which is the Research Excellence Framework that I mentioned earlier, specifically for impact. So our research has had really strong impact in the psychological community across the world. And what we've done is we've broken our department down into 4 broad themes, which are clinical and health psychology, cognition and perception, which is what this image is here, cognitive neuroscience, and forensic psychology. So those are the sort of broader themes that we sit under. And then we'll do specific pieces of research. So one of the big ones that came out a couple of years ago, which made it internationally in the press, was looking at internet addiction. Can you become addicted to the internet? And if you can, how do you diagnose it? And addiction is never a good thing, but what are the repercussions of becoming addicted to the internet? And if you Google Swansea University internet addiction, you'll see a whole host of news articles that come up of it. That's a really good example of an applied piece of research that came out. So moving on from that, as you can see, it's just going to be one slide on each of the 3 programs because I'm going to keep it quite condensed. But of course, if you have questions after I've finished talking, you can pop it in the chat and I'll go into more detail. So to begin with, the most popular program by far is the MSc Clinical Psychology and Mental Health program. Now, this is an academic-based program looking at clinical psychology, so very much with a view to students being able to go on to do further study to become a clinical psychologist. There was previously a work placement module, and you might have seen in public health I skipped over a slide. That's because the work placement modules for this and our public health course currently are suspended just because of what's going on with coronavirus. They're typically attached to placements within the National Health Service, and as you can imagine, it's quite busy within the health community in the UK at the moment with everything that's going on with coronavirus. And we didn't feel it was fair to ask staff to also be able to supervise students as well as having to work during a global pandemic. So they were suspended for study for the September 2020 entry. For September 2021, they may be back on because you wouldn't be doing those placements until 2022. But I cannot promise that at the moment. And what I would say is, don't apply for these courses if you're focused specifically on the work placement, because I can't promise they'll be there. But what you can do is, you can look to either come at a later date if you've dedicated that's the only thing you want to do it for, or come for what is primarily the purpose of these degrees, which is the academic side, because the placements would only be 1 week, maybe 2 weeks at the absolute most. So it's not, it's not a huge amount of placement. They are very much academic focused programs. And for clinical psychology, you're looking at things such as eating disorders, psychopathy, sexual offending, neuropsychology, psychotherapy, and then key statistical and research modules. And those are key. Statistics and research are the big things. So you need to have a relatively strong mathematical background to be able to get involved with those statistics and research areas. For clinical psychology, you need to have studied an undergraduate degree in psychology to be able to do it, because it's very much a stepping stone towards that decline. So if you haven't done psychology as a background and you may be looking to transition, it wouldn't be this course that you'd be looking at. But it is possible we could look at something like research methods in psychology. Now, sometimes students who don't make the entry requirements for clinical psychology are made an alternative offer to this course, and they're slightly disappointed because it isn't clinical psychology. But this course, I think, is a really exciting program, because whereas you'll do statistics and research and you'll do a research project within clinical psychology, that's very much based on existing data. The beauty of research methods is you get to actually do hands-on experience and apply your knowledge to build your own research study from start to end. So what that means is designing the study, having hands-on access to any of our research labs, and then doing all of your data collection of subjects, analysis of that data, and then form your conclusion. And as an example of this, the bottom right here, this is our sleep lab. So we had a piece of research looking at whether you could control people's dreams. And it would be when someone's asleep, you could flash a certain color. So say you'd flash the color red on their face when they're asleep like this. Whatever's happening in that person's dream, by flashing a red light in it, their dream would turn the color red. And they'd stop whatever they're doing in that dream and just start rubbing their stomach. Now you may ask, why would you want to get someone to rub their stomach in the middle of their dream? Well, the reason for it could be if someone has, really bad night terrors or nightmares. If you could just flash a light in someone's face, it would just put them straight back into a deep sleep. Because, someone who suffers with maybe sleepwalking or night terrors or anything like that can be very disruptive and they don't ever feel rested. So it's a really good way of being able to, allow people to have that really comfortable long night's sleep and restful. Because without a good night's sleep, it can have a bigger, wider impact on your life. So I think this is quite a cool course because it means you get to do lots of different research and you get to pull all these different threads together. I did a study for one of our students looking at if they could detect psychopathic tendencies in people based on noises. So we have eye tracking software. So I sat staring at the screen like this and they played noise through headphones. And it was things like a gun going off and a baby crying, a car backfiring, people laughing. And your eyes should dilate in different ways. So, with a gun, you should show fear. With a baby, you should show empathy. And if you don't do any of that, then, you could have psychopathic tendencies. Unfortunately, they didn't tell me what the results were, so I may be a psychopath and I don't know anything about it. But it was a really interesting study, and it gives you an example of what we do in Swansea. And finally, cognitive neuroscience. So this is very much kind of the sciencey element. So it's looking at the biological brain, the way the physical brain works. So you get to use a lot of cool bits of technology, such as functional magnetic resonance imaging and various other very long words that I'm not going to attempt to pronounce now. But effectively, you can look at how the brain works, how the brain processes information, and you can look at it to aid people who've perhaps got learning difficulties, or someone who's suffered a traumatic brain injury, and the impact that has on the functioning of their brain and how they can be retrained to learn how their brain works. So someone with a biology background could look at doing this course, even if they haven't got a psychology background, because it's looking at the physical brain and the way you can use psychological methods to be able to maybe help retrain someone. So say someone's had a stroke and they've lost control of their left arm. It could be looking at the way the brain processes information, and is there certain things you can do to retrain the brain to get the arm to work again? Because it could be that there's nothing physically wrong with the arm. It's just there's almost a kind of malfunction which has happened in the brain. So it's a really interesting course. Truthfully, we only get, a couple of international students a year onto it. But we do get interest from Indian students because cognitive neuroscience, I understand, is quite a growth area within India, and there aren't that many departments that are able to teach it. So if you're interested in this course, get in touch and we can, of course, have a more of a discussion about it. And again, entry requirements are on the slide. And this is just going back to the entry requirements as earlier, just so you can see the sort of equivalency. So we're looking at about 55 to 65% for most courses, and you can see what the CGPA would be there as well. So for many of our courses, you would be able to use your home English language skill, but it depends when you last did it. So if you were 20 years ago, you studied, your undergraduate degree, you may need to do an IELTS test. We do have an English language school in Swansea, and they do online testing. So you don't necessarily have to go to an IELTS centre. You could do it, what is called a SWELT test, Swansea English Language Training Services test. And that will allow you to then, gain the English qualification you need to be able to study the course. So just something to bear in mind. In terms of scholarships, so you will, if you're from India, most students will receive an automatic Thrive bursary of £3,000 if they have made an offer to study the course, and you must have an offer to do it. And then you're able to top that up. So if you would like to apply for an International Excellence Scholarship, you can. So that would be £4,000. So it's not £4,000 plus £3,000. It's effectively a £1,000 top up. So it means you would have a £4,000 tuition fee discount off your fees. To do that, you would need to hold an offer and then complete an application form along with your transcripts. And then you would receive the £4,000 discount towards postgraduate study. So virtual events, I know obviously we're primarily talking about postgraduate subjects, but just in case you've got any friends or family, we do also have an undergraduate open day as well. So these are virtual events that you can come to where you can have, virtual campus tours, and you're able to, see what the campus is like, talk to our students, talk to our academic members of staff, and find out more about studying with us in Swansea. And that is it from me. So I hope that you found that useful. I'm now able to take any questions you have. You should be able to see my email address here. So by all means, you're welcome to send me an email directly and I can have a chat with you about it. Just pop in the chat now and I will answer any questions you may have. Okay, I can see a few questions have come through. So yes, as someone said, is this for the UK? Yes, Swansea is based in southwest Wales. So yes, we are based in the United Kingdom. Is the one-year master's degree in public health recognised internationally? Yes, so it would be internationally recognised as a public health master's programme. Yeah, so, I would say it depends where you want to go to. You might want to check if there's a specific career you're looking at doing in, say, the United States. you might want to find out from them if this degree would be valued, because whilst, yes, it is globally a recognised qualification, if you have something very specific in mind, I would check that with them. But yes, it is a internationally recognised program. See someone saying they're a dentist, any dentists out there. You know, we have a lot of dentists who come and do the healthcare management and public health programs. It's really popular for dentists, qualified dentists, to come and do those courses. So they've done a master's in physical therapy from India. Can they do a master's in public health? So yeah, physical therapy would be a very good link to it. We probably want to have a little look at what your work experience has been since then, just so we can top that up. By all means, if you want to get in touch with me, you can see it on the screen, but what I'll do is I'll just type my email address here as well, so you can just copy and paste it. If you want to just send me an email with your sort of CV, and we can take a look at that for you and let you know whether it would be worth applying. Doesn't look like there's any other questions, which I'm assuming means that I answered all of your questions in my presentation. If you've got any questions at all, though, right, does the university offer placement or job placement? So in Swansea, we have something called the Swansea Employability Academy. So this is a centre set up specifically to help students find either part-time work or volunteer experience. So yes, there is the opportunity to do some employment. They won't necessarily be able to find you specific things related to your master's degree. As mentioned in the talk, for both psychology and the public health courses, they would be the only ones that offer directly modules that have placements attached to them. And they were suspended during the coronavirus pandemic because those placements would typically take place in NHS settings. And because what's going on at the moment, it's not safe for our students to go into a hospital environment to undertake those placements. But also it's not fair on the staff because they have a lot on their plate at the moment managing, a global pandemic. So you can't do anything specifically linked to the course, but the Employability Academy will be able to help you find work. The type of work you'd be able to find would very much depend on, what your background is and how many hours you can work. Typically, we tell students not to work more than 10 hours a week when doing a master's program because they're quite intensive courses, and you ultimately are coming to the UK to study a master's degree. That's what you're hoping to achieve from it, not, some part-time work on the side. So we really want your focus to be to get the best possible qualification that you can get while studying with us in Swansea. Careers and employment opportunities after master's in cognitive neuroscience. So cognitive neuroscience, it's typically going to work for a cognitive neuroscience department. So it could be technology focused. It could be working for a company developing the technology to carry out this assessment. Or it could be working in something like a traumatic brain injury unit in a hospital, or working for a privatized company looking at brain function. It could be going to work in sort of education, working with people who have got perhaps learning difficulties. There's a lot you can do with it in terms of the way the brain functions. So it's a biological based degree. So it is looking at the physical brain. So it could be if someone said, traumatic brain injury and part of their brain, the cells have gone dead, and that part of the brain causes them to, lose the sense of taste or something like that. You can technically reprogram a brain, and it's looking at those psychological methodologies and applying them to the biology of the brain to see if you are able to kind of to rebuild it or get people to relearn certain skills they might have lost. Taste might not be the best example. It could be that, learning to walk again if you've had a physical thing, but there's nothing physically, biologically wrong with your body that's preventing you from walking. It could just be a psychological element because of a hit you've had to the head. So there's a lot you can do off the back of that with it. But it is, as I say, technology and sort of biologically focused. Sorry, I don't know what you mean by USMLE. I'm just going to Google that. I couldn't. That looks like it's an American system. I couldn't tell you honestly what you need to work in the United States after it. I would not feel comfortable giving you guidance on what you need to do to work in the United States after it. We're a British university, so I can tell you you need to work in the UK, but perhaps if you want to go and work in the United States, you might want to contact with whatever accrediting body in the United States would manage that to find out exactly what you need to do. MSc Public Health and Health Promotion, how many hours, classes, lectures are conducted per week? So typically it's usually about 2 full days of lectures is what we say. So that works out to about 6 to 8 hours a day. They won't necessarily be 2 full days. It could be 4 half days. It depends on, what modules you're doing. But we try and keep it structured to 2 full days a week, which means you then get 3 full days off to go and do some part-time work if you want, and have extracurricular learning time as well. So I would say, yeah, around 2 full days a week, with the exception which you might get 1 full day and 2 half days occasionally, depending on how the modules are structured. It very much depends on, because our academics will sometimes teach on multiple programs. So it depends where, if they're teaching on different courses at the same time, we do have to sort of structure that around when fits in the timetabling. But we do our very best to try and keep it to 2 full days. Does anyone have any other questions for me? I hope you found that useful. They are very interesting courses that we do in Swansea. And the students that come and do, well, all of them really, there's definite value in doing all of them. I think the public health course is very interesting because it has those aspects of health promotion. We had a student who came from Nigeria a couple of years ago, and he did something which I thought was fascinating, which was looking at snake bites in northern Nigeria. So the farmers up there get bitten by snakes, and very often they unfortunately die from the snake bites because there's no anti-venom near them. And he went and looked at the majority of the anti-venom for Nigeria is actually produced in Wales, about an hour and a half away from Swansea. So he went and visited the anti-venom farm where they go and produce all this anti-venom, and he wrote a public health strategy for the Nigerian government to help hopefully reduce the amount of fatalities from people working in quite rural areas of Nigeria that are being bitten by snakes. And I would never have considered snake bites as a public health area. We don't really have snakes in the UK anyway, but it's fascinating to see how you can apply your knowledge. So he'd done sort of a background of, it was biological sciences, I think, coming into it. And I was just quite a fascinating area to go into. So there's a lot you can do with these degrees, and there's a lot of different areas, whether it's to go into research or government work or, anything really that ties into public health. And I think the global pandemic that's happening at the moment, everyone knows about public health now. It's made it very commonplace to know what public health is because, in the UK we've had lockdowns and there's the vaccine that's taking place at the moment. But a lot of the guidance that the government takes is from public health specialists as well. So, I think that you're kind of looking the right time to look at doing a public health course, because even as a university, as an organisation, we need public health policies in place. So if you're on campus at the moment, you need to wear masks everywhere. All the buildings have one-way systems. We're encouraging hand washing. Every single building and every entrance has antibacterial gel and NHS test and trace, so we can see who's gone where. And that's been put together as a public health strategy. So you're going to see more and more organisations going forward that need to write public health strategies for their employers and possibly for their customers as well. Any dual degree programs? So not with these courses. No, there's no dual degree programs with these. These are 1-year master's courses that are purely written for this area. I mean, don't be shy. You can ask any question you like. It's, there's no silly question you could possibly ask. And I'll do my very best to answer it. And if I don't know the answer, we can always put you in touch with, one of our academic faculty who might be able to answer it. I think our healthcare management program is really interesting as well, though, because looking at the way healthcare systems are managed, and especially the way we've all been, looking at healthcare provision during a global pandemic, I think that's completely changed the way that we see healthcare and the way people manage their work. Having strong managers in place across everything, right from people who manage the cleaners going into hospital, right up to government levels making the decisions as to how to distribute a vaccine, or how to, how do you educate enough people to be trained in the roles of nurses and doctors to be able to cope with it. All of those need really strong managers who put these provisions in place, and that's why I think these courses at the moment are really, they're going to be in demand for the next few years at least. Is it possible to do an MPH and an MSc in cognitive neuroscience at the same time? No, it wouldn't be possible. You really are. It's a 1 year. So in most countries, master's degrees are 2 years. In the UK, you're already doing a master's degree in 1 year, and you really need to be focused on your studies completely on that one area that you're studying in. I understand you clearly have a very big appetite for learning and want to develop as many skills as possible in as short a period as possible. But even if you were to do them separately, one after the other, that's still 2 master's degrees that you would get. Whereas if you went to the United States, over 2 years, you'd still only get one course that you're studying. So, I would pick the one that you want to do the most and do it as a 1 year degree, to be completely honest with you. You're worried that the job market might be too oversaturated, or too saturated, maybe oversaturated. And that's a very valid concern with everything. What we're seeing in the UK at the moment is, truthfully, we did lose some people to the EU. So after Brexit happened, we had very highly skilled people who were EU passport holders. And because the UK was going to leave the European Union, they decided to return to the EU. So there's been some areas where we've lost quite skilled people within our health community. And that's not to say that, there's a panic and we haven't got people here to do the jobs, but it's always advantageous to have a wider group of people available to be able to do those jobs, because it means you get to pick the best, the top of the bunch. So truthfully, I wouldn't be too concerned at that at the moment. We've been doing public, because I can see you said, every university's putting out health programs. They may be, but our public health program has been running for years. And, as an example, the student I did the student profile on, so Madeleine Pop here, she she graduated with us about 2 or 3 years ago, so well before the pandemic, and she got a job working as a public health commissioner in London. So the fact that she was able to do that, and that's when everything was fine in the UK. Well, everything was fine globally at that point, and she was still able to go into that graduate scheme and find it. People at the moment need public health experts. We need people who can put strategies in, because if you think of something like supply chain management of bringing in medications to the UK, we're an island nation, so we've got to bring it in from other countries. We're doing this at a time where the way we import things is completely different, because we've just gone through Brexit, so we're no longer part of the EU. So you're bringing these vaccines into the country, and, the first vaccine that came out, it has to be kept at minus 70 degrees. It isn't ready mixed. So someone's got to go and mix that vaccine on site, and then you can't move it once it's mixed, because that will damage it and it's no longer effective. So you then need to bring people to it. So if the first people you're looking to vaccinate are people over 70 who are incredibly vulnerable, who have mobility issues, how do you get a vaccine that's being shipped into the port of Dover to cross the entire country to all these very small care homes? We've got, I think it's over 2,000 care homes across the UK. How do you get those vaccines out to people and have the right people there to mix and distribute those vaccines? The only way to do that is to have in place people who've got public health experience and healthcare management experience, who can help manage the logistics of getting those vaccines out to people. And, it's a massive undertaking, because we need a constant supply of the vaccine coming into the country to treat 60 million people in the UK. And they've got to have 2 injections. So it's not like once they're done, it's over with. And you've probably heard there's new variants that are coming out all the time, which means the vaccines keep needing to be updated, and then new versions of it need to be sent out to people. So honestly, I truthfully don't think there's a concern for it at the moment. I think that every country is going to be in the same position where they're looking for public health and healthcare management experts. That was quite a long answer to your question, but I hope you found it useful. if you've got any other questions at all, I do think for the psychology degrees as well, the reason I think I'm putting them in here, because one of the wider implications that's going to happen off the back of a global pandemic like this is mental health provision. I think there's going to be an increased demand on mental health provision globally. People going through lockdowns, people have unfortunately lost loved ones, people's jobs. The people might have lost their jobs. There's going to be pressure on the sort of the mental health of people, and for the people who work in healthcare as well. I was listening to a health podcast the other day, and they were saying that it's almost like war conditions that some of these nurses and doctors in some countries are undertaking because of the sheer volume of people that are coming in that are sick and they're not used to it. And how do they deal with the trauma of having to deal with that many people? So that's why psychology, I think, is going to be really important as well. I think there'll be new diagnoses that are coming out off the back of this within the psychological community, the impact of a global pandemic on people's mental health. So, all of these courses should probably be taken in the wider global context of what's going on in the world at the moment. I'm a licensed physician in India. Do I need to? I don't know what the PLAB is. Sorry. But what I would say is before you come into the UK, if it's going to impact, if you come into the UK is going to have an impact on you getting whatever accreditation you need in your home country to work as a physician, I would probably say it's worth making sure that you've got everything in place before you come and study a course in the UK. Because what you don't want to do is have a gap that may prevent you from getting that, registration or accreditation or whatever you need when you go back. So it's something which really you probably need to speak to that accrediting body with directly, to be honest, because for us it doesn't matter, but for them it sounds like it does, so they'd be the one to give you an answer to that question. But I would say if in doubt, you probably want to make sure you've got everything that you need to do first before you look at moving out of the country to study something new. But we'll always be here, so don't panic, you can come to Swansea at a later date. Oh, I see. I do apologise. You would need to speak to them directly on that, because whilst all I can tell you is our public health program is mapped to the public health careers framework, and you'd be able to get registered practitioner status, or you'd be able to go apply for the UK Public Health Register. In terms of actually coming in as a doctor, that's a very different. That doesn't seem like that's not reliant on you doing a public health degree with us. That's you going on to become licensed in the UK to practice. That's a different set of things altogether. So I'm not the right person to ask that question to be completely honest with you. You probably need to speak to someone who aids qualified medical practitioners to come into work in the UK as the best way they can do it. I'm sorry if that doesn't answer your question, but I don't want to give you the wrong information or mislead you in any way. I think it's better for you to go to the right person to gain an answer to that question. Does anyone else have any other questions? We've also got, so we're going to be doing another hour now in the main Swansea University booth. You're welcome to go there. My colleague Cecilia, so she's based in the medical part of our faculty. So if you've got sort of any medical courses you're looking at, she might be able to help answer them. So we don't do a master's in health administration. We do a master's in healthcare management and a master's in public health and health promotion. And no, you don't need a physician license for either of those courses. You could be from any type of background. It could be a health or social care based one. So we've got students who are architects and city planners, people who've worked in private companies managing public health policy, doctors, dentists, nurses, physiotherapists, chiropractors, osteopaths, audiologists. It really is people from a really diverse range of backgrounds who come and do those courses. So to do the registered public health practitioner status, you shouldn't need to. You should just need to submit the qualification you get for your master's degree along with your previous work and education history, and those two things combined would allow you to apply for that registration. So the course is mapped to allow you to gain those areas, but it is very much in unison with what your previous career and educational background is. Oh, my pleasure to answer your questions. Thank you for coming along and listening to me talk. And you've all got my email address again, so if you do want to email me directly, I can put you in touch with our academics if you've got some more sort of academic questions about the course, about the sort of the modules or the assessments and things like that. I can always arrange, so if you want a one-to-one, just like a Zoom call with me, I'm quite happy to have a little chat with you on Zoom, and we can just arrange a little meeting together to do it that way. Or you can just email me any questions. You can send me your CV if you want to. If you're not sure if you get on the course, if you're not sure if you've got the right background, you can just send me a copy of your CV and your transcripts, and I can take a look at them and let you know which course you'll be able to get on. So whatever works best for you. So if you haven't got any questions, you can leave at this point, I think, and we can head back over to the Swansea University booth. Okay, I think I'm going to end this session then, and we will go back over to the Swansea University stand. And if you've got any further questions, you can come on over there and ask away. Thank you very much.